Good morning, evening, everybody. My name is Mike at Filmboy24, and I'm about to get into something that I've never done before. It's like a kid getting into something. It's all excited, and they've never, or it's just me doing something I've never done before. I've seen similar things that I'm going to talk about in a second, but I'm going to try to develop some Ektachrome slide film, the 100D, in a process that doesn't use E6 at all. Yep, that's right. I said it. E6 processing without E6 chemicals. Well, kind of without E6 chemicals. You see, I do some E6 processing from time to time. However, the chemicals are a little expensive for E6. The chemicals don't store nearly as long as other processes. And I don't do a lot of it. So it's just not cost effective for me to always buy E6 chemicals and keep them stored forever and they go bad. And it's happened to me, and your results come out just terrible and negatives instead of positive. I mean, it does all kinds of freaky things when you let your chemicals sit way too long. I've done it. So I try not to do that anymore. So I was perusing YouTube, which I do occasionally, probably a year or two ago, and then revisited it not long ago. There was a fella on YouTube, and I believe he goes by Go Everywhere. It's a fun little channel. He seems like he knows what he's talking about. I don't know him personally, but I kind of dig his channel. But he posted a video, and it was my inspiration. And he does a lot of still film, apparently. But he took a roll of Ektachrome slide film, and he processed it, and he showed how he did it. And he processed it with HC110 and C41 chemicals, and got an actual good reversal image, a slide film image, a positive. So I thought, well, he did a good job, and it looked like it came out pretty well. So why couldn't that be done with movie film? And instead of using C41, let's try ECN-2, but let's go one step further and let's try homebrew ECN-2, because ECN-2 uses a CD3 compound, or their color developer is CD3, and E6 also uses CD3, whereas C41 uses CD4. And I think really the only major difference between CD3 and CD4 is CD4, I think, is a bit more active than CD3, but the times are already there, and I use CD3 a lot, so let's try that, I said to myself. So with that, I mixed up a brand spanking new homebrew batch of ECN-2, and if you haven't seen my video on ECN-2 DIY chemical making, I'll leave a link to it, or a card, so where you can check it out. If you can't see it, then just do a quick search, Filmboy24 ECN-2 kit, and I make up my own ECN-2 kits. Now, I do them in 2-liter batches, but a lot of people just use 1 liter at a time, and I'll do a 2-liter batch because I do 16 millimeter a lot, 100 feet of 16 millimeter, and they comes out middle of last year. I did a price breakdown, and for 1 liter kits, just under $7, I think like $6.88 for an entire 1 liter powder kit of my homebrew ECN-2. I make it 2 liters at a time, so we're in about the $13.50 range US for a 2 liter kit. Now, you do have to store this stuff in a dark location for the most part once it's been mixed, and it's best to use it within about 2 to 3 months. That's about the same with E6 chemicals, but E6 chemicals are, when you can find them anymore, about 40 bucks for a 1 liter kit, or, well, close to 80 bucks for 2 liters. So 13 and change, 80. Okay, I know, but the E6 kit does also contain the black and white developer. However, the black and white developer is really inexpensive. I use HC110, which is a Kodak formula. However, more recently, I've been using this FPP. It's their own little concentrate, FPP 110. It's basically the same as HC110, but it's a lot cheaper. So I like to try to patronize this business whenever I can. They have a lot of cool stuff, but this is only about 30 bucks, and it's for a whole liter of concentrate, and this will make a very small ocean's worth of actual working HC110 formula if you use the B formula, or FPP110B. Now, if you use a different formula with much higher dilution levels, you could make a large ocean's worth in this stuff. So the cost is really, really low. You know, I'm in the $1 or $1.50 per batch range, and I usually make 1 to 2 liters at a time. So really now, or maybe we're up to $16 for 2 liters, $17 for an E6 kit. So the instruction that this fella gave on the Go Everywhere channel, he broke it down pretty well, and I followed it almost to a T, but I had to mix it up a little bit because I'm using ECN-2, whereas he used C41. He also did still film. Now, in my introduction, I mentioned that I'd never seen this done before. Well, I have seen it done several times with still film, and still film is relatively easy to process. It's in small lengths, usually no more than about 5 feet long, and it's very manageable small containers, a quick dump, quick pour. It's a little bit different with cine film. A lot fewer people process and scan and do all the fun things with their own movie film. I happen to be someone that just absolutely loves doing all this stuff myself. Like I've said many times, this is sort of my hobby. This is my golf game. I enjoy processing and scanning film. Some enjoy going and playing golf. Anyway, so what I did is I followed most of what he said, and I did write it down because I kept this with me in my processing area when I was doing it. So I'm going to just really quickly go through the steps that I used, and then I'm going to show you the result that I got out of this roll of Ektachrome 7285. It's the old 100D that's about 12 to 15 years old. And this was in my freezer. It's an older expired stock. It's not the new 100D. So keep that in mind when you see it. Okay, so what I did first. Typically when you use black and white developer, which is the first developer in an E6 kit, you usually want to use this if you're processing black and white film at a relatively cold temperature. Well, he had mentioned using it at a very warm temperature for first developer, which makes sense because with E6, if you're using the kits, the three-step kit, it's about 106 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's what I did. I think he did a 105, I did 106. Actually, mine was almost 107 because I knew I was going to keep it in the tank longer and the temp was going to start coming down. So I did 107 degrees for 12 minutes first, my film inside the Lomo tank. You then dump it, and then I washed it, and I did 3 really, really good up and down agitation washes of the tank. I then took the film out of the tank, kept it on the spiral, and then I blasted. I used these, you guys have seen my review on my newer studio lights. Well, I blasted them. I blasted the daylight and the tungsten all the way up as high as they would go on one of the lights, held the spiral up, and I slowly sort of rotated it for about a minute and a half. So it got everything. Then I turned it over, got the bottom side, did the same thing. So about 3 minutes total that I put it in. I didn't know whether to use daylight or yellow light or what they call tungsten balanced. So I just combined them both and blasted it as high as it would go. After I did that, and when you look at the film, he mentioned this, and he was I'm glad he did because I got excited, but when you look at the film, when you take it out, you should be kind of a milky looking image, and I'll pop a picture up there of what I saw, sort of a milky image, but you could see the black and white negatives. If you can't, then the chances are the rest of your process is probably not going to work. So with that, I put it back in the tank, and I started with my ECN-2 process. I mixed fresh HC110 and fresh fixer and fresh ECN-2 chemicals. Whew, that's a lot of freshness all in one batch. So he did mention with his, he used C41, and he says, now you basically want to just do what the kit tells you to do. Do it the same way you would a normal C41. So for me, with E6, with ECN2 rather, I'll just start and I'll do it the way I typically do. With my ECN2, I develop for 3 minutes at 106 degrees Fahrenheit, so I decided that's what I'll start with here. Only this time I did a little higher, about 107 degrees Fahrenheit, 3 minutes, put the developer back in the bottle, capped it up, and I washed it again. And once again, about 3 minutes, washed it real good, agitate. Bleach step. Now this is where it's a little bit different than his, because his was a Blix. When you have a kits like an E6 or a C41, they mix the bleach and the fixer together. Well, I don't do that with my ECN2, so it was my bleach step, which is separate from my fixer, and he mentioned that it's probably wise to kind of double, or somewhere around double, your Blix, so I decided I would double my bleach. So I would typically bleach for about 6 minutes, and when you double that, let's see, 6 times 2, carry the 1, 12 minutes of bleaching, and I did that at about 107 degrees Fahrenheit. Do the same thing, I put it back in the bottle, I washed it real good, and you really want to wash that bleach really, 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 really well. And I did that, 3 or 4 good hot water rinses, get all the yellow goo out of there and get it nice and clean. Time to fix. Now I made a brand new batch of my Kodak powder fixer. It's a hardener fixer, and I typically go 5 to 7 minutes, and that's what I did here. 107 degrees for 7 solid minutes. Drained it back into the bottle and wash, wash, wash. And it was time to check out the results. Here's a quick little, I got a little picture of it when I was kind of, you know, at the sink. So needless to say, I was super excited because not only did I have images, but they didn't look overly wonky. They were, I will tell you, the colors did shift a tiny bit. Really not too bad. They didn't look that much different than when I do a normal E6 process. But I had a positive image, and the image was there along the entire length of the 50 feet. I noticed that when I hung it to dry, and when I was winding it onto the spool. And I was super excited because, well, it's, first of all, it's way cheaper. I can mix an E6 kit when I need one now, but I guess I should back up. I don't know if I would call this my E6 kit. It's really not the right process, but it's very close. And just a quick disclaimer, I don't know what the staying power is for these. From what I've kind of read, that there's some things in E6. E6 is a very complicated process to mix yourself. It's not impossible. It's just there's a lot of funky chemicals in there that I don't feel like messing with, way more than with my ECN2 stuff. So the chances of me ever making my own DIY E6 kits are very slim. So I probably won't ever do that, especially now that I know I can get awfully close with this little makeshift. And I'm going to tweak a couple of things. There was a magenta cast, pretty good magenta cast, not terrible. And most of it I fixed during the original scan. And then the rest of it I did the best that I could in a little bit of color grading and some correcting with the white balance and whatnot. And overall, I mean, I'm absolutely elated at what actually happened during this process. So let me tell you what I shot real quick. My wife and I took a little trip just down the street, not too awfully far, to one of my favorite little testing spots, and that's Sugar Mill Gardens, right here in Port Orange, Florida. I took Trusty with me. I gotta name this camera. For right now, we'll call him Trusty. I took my Canon 514 XL and I loaded it with this roll of film right there. This is Ektachrome 100D, the original. Remember back when they had 7285? There's the box for it, 7285. And I loaded this camera up for my wife, which is my Shinnon 20p XL. I loaded this up with a roll of Vision 3 50D, my favorite film. And I told her I wanted to go, and this was going to be my experiment film. This was going to be something that I thought she would have fun with. And I filmed some of the gardens, and I filmed some of her filming. So that's what you're going to see. You're going to see a little bit of the gardens. You're going to see, I mean, I did try to get a little bit of color in there. There is some colorful items out there. And like I say, I filmed her. I have not processed her 50D yet. That's next on the slate. So I can't show you what she filmed yet. I can just show you her filming what she filmed. And other things. Anyway, so without too much more of this, keep all those things in mind. Here's what I got with my alternate E6 process. Overall, I'm really, really happy at how that turned out. Again, this is not the original 6-step E6 process intended for this kind of film. This is a workaround that I was lucky enough to stumble upon a video from the Go Everywhere channel where he explained what he did. I tweaked it a little bit. I still have a bit more tweaking to do, but overall, I'm super excited about at least having this option when I want to process some E6 film or some old Ektachrome. I might even try this, I'm not positive yet, but I might even try this with a roll of Ektachrome 160. You know, we do our found film just to see what happens. I don't know, we'll see. I hope you enjoyed this little demonstration, and keep an eye out because we are going to at some point show you, hopefully, I haven't processed it yet so I don't know, what my wife was able to capture. I gave her this camera because it's focus free. She doesn't do a lot of filming yet. Hopefully that'll change. It's focus free, so we'll see what happens. And if you did enjoy this video, would you do me a favor, please? There it is. Hit the little thumb button right down there down below and leave me a comment. Tell me what you think about this video. Tell me what you think about my results. They're not perfect. I totally get that. They're not. But for the alternative process and the fact that I processed it myself and scanned it myself and uploaded it myself, I'm super excited and I'm very happy with it overall. And if you think I've earned it, you could right there, right there. subscribe. I would greatly appreciate you climbing on board the Filmboy24 Express. It's going to Filmland. God, that was so corny. And until the very next time that I see all of your stunning, stunning faces, that's you. All of you. Well, all, yeah. There it is. The head bob. I missed that head bob. I'll see all of you on the very next go around.